Welcome to the Peopling Podcast, where we hang out with brilliant human beings who teach us how to be better, well, humans, and decode what makes us tick and click. Inspired by the book Peopling, available on Amazon. Let's get this episode started. Hi, friends. Welcome to the Peopling Podcast. This is where we talk about what it means to really connect, communicate, and grow through every season of life. This is where we explore how people think and feel and relate from friendships to leadership, so we can all learn to people a little better. My name is Kristi, and I am your host, and peopling together makes it a better world. Today's VIP guest is a man who turned adversity into purpose and leadership into a calling. Troy C. Smith is a servant leader, a TEDx speaker, and the author of Value-Driven Leadership, a book built on the real stories, the real struggles, and real breakthroughs that shaped his philosophy of people-first leadership. Catch this. He rose from humble beginnings in the Bronx to becoming the #1 sales manager nationwide at GEICO Insurance, not through titles or through authority, but through compassion, emotional intelligence, and a deep commitment to developing people. After retiring from GEICO in 2023, Troy launched HOPE Inspirational Speaking, where he now equips organizations, executives, and emerging leaders with his signature teach, model, and coach methodology, a system to reduce burnout, elevate culture, and build leaders that people actually want to follow. His approach blends faith-rooted insight, real-world corporate experience, and storytelling that makes you laugh and think and look in the mirror. Troy believes that leadership isn't about managing tasks. It's about transforming people. And his mission is simple: help open people's eyes with a heightened focus on leaders and aiding them in communicating with clarity, leading with purpose, and serving with heart, while reminding everyone to keep their head up, keep smiling, and keep hope alive. It is an honor to have and welcome my VIP guest today, which is Troy C. Smith. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Kristi. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome. Well, what a wonderful introduction to who you are. Thank you for sending over that information about you. And when people really start digging into who you are, they're going to see so much more than just the accolades that you've shared here. I see you all over TikTok and YouTube and social media, not as an influencer, but as somebody who's pouring into other people and really raising up leaders. So what is said about you in your introduction, you are truly living. So my friend, we've known each other for 3-ish years now.
Yes.
It's been awesome to watch your journey from leaving corporate America, being the #1 sales manager for one of the top insurance, if not the top insurance company in the entire globe. So give us a little background about who Troy C. Smith is. Be free in the information that you share with us about your journey getting you to where you're at today.
Absolutely. First of all, Kristi, again, thank you for having me here, and the work that you're doing with this podcast. I applaud you because it's all about people, and we lose sight of that in our technology that we have today. We're so fast paced with so much information coming our way. And it's mind blowing that we're losing sight on how to really connect with people. So my story, when I go back, I never thought that I would be where I'm at right now. The first thing is my spiritual growth. I was one that was very reluctant and very guarded against spirituality and Christians because of my experience of watching people just be people and holding them on a higher standard, but losing the sight of they are attempting to just be better. And I lost sight of that, and I was passing so much judgment, and I did the same with leaders. I thought that leaders should be flawless, that leaders should be perfect. And so the two views kind of merged in my whole growth and my development into the person that I'm still developing into being. And so I remember when I joined GEICO, I remember in the transition period, this is a period that we are starting to take phone calls and handle live customers. And there was one defining moment in that environment. It was, I asked a question from one of my coaches, and my coach said to me, "We just went over that yesterday." And in that moment, Kristi, I felt so devalued. And I thought, wait a minute, it just gave me a flashback of just how we communicate as a society. I had an athletic background. I started thinking about my coaches and the way my coaches would devalue the players, but the intent was to encourage them and motivate them and get them to focus on. But there was a lot of damage that was taking place that I didn't realize until I started to dig deeper into how powerful words are and how we communicate. The chemicals that are released in our brains, the fight or flight, the dopamine hits or misses. And it was, again, going back to that moment, I thought, I'm not going to be a leader like that, number one. And I'm going to be as real as I can with people. And then that was 19, my goodness, that was 1998. That was 1990, maybe 99 when that happened. Fast forward, I had a spiritual awakening after the passing of my dad in 2013. And I had a strong conviction on just growing more spiritually. I already knew God or knew of him, but my relationship was hit or miss. And when I started combining both of these things together, it led me on a journey, on a path to just start valuing people so much more, to start seeing people as just regular human beings and giving the benefit of the doubt rather than assuming the worst and assuming the negative. Because our society, I believe, conditions us when we're watching the news or we're reading articles. There's not a whole lot of stuff out there that uplifts us, but there's more that puts us on guard and say, caution, caution, caution. And so as a result of these two worlds collaborating, I am who I am. I call myself a student of life. And like you, we are all enrolled in Adversity University, and the curriculum is tough. It's a beast. Sometimes God gives us these pop quizzes. I hate pop quizzes. And he wants to see if we're learning or retaining and applying these principles of just how to conduct ourselves, either as leaders, as spouses, as parents, as brothers, as sisters, siblings, children of the Most High, and of those that we come from biologically. I know I just said a whole mouthful, Kristi, but in summation, I hope that gives you some insight as to who I am right now in this moment.
Love that, Troy. Thank you. And then so share with us how you pivoted. You left corporate leadership. You learned some lessons the hard way, right? You said this is not who I'm going to be out in the workplace, out in the world, and you saw that there's this need, right, for others to be poured into, to be the kind of leader that motivates rather than degrades. So you started Hope. Tell us a little bit about that part of your journey.
Okay. And the HOPE is an acronym that I use in so many ways, but the main thing is to help open people's eyes. So I just alluded to my dad passing in 2013. When he passed, Kristi, I was so mad. I was so mad at God. I was just so mad. He was only 73 years old. And as I was settling his affairs on the phone and calling all these different places, that's when it hit me the most that now is the time to start doing something more meaningful in life. Because everyone on the phone was telling me, Mr. Smith, I'm so sorry about your loss. I understand exactly what you're going through. And that triggered me. It triggered me because when people are telling me that they understand exactly what I'm going through, I'm thinking, how can someone really understand the dysfunctional relationship my dad and I had when I was a little boy? How can they understand when my dad told me, I'm going to come and pick you up? Because he and my mom divorced when I was 2. So the no-shows that were involved, the disappointments and the letdowns, how can people understand that? How can people understand the energy and the time it took for us to mend our relationship, heal our relationship, and recover from that? How can they understand that my dad was my best man at my wedding? He was my best friend. So all of these things, and I'm confident people didn't wake up that morning and say, you know what, I'm going to insult everybody I speak to today. It was evident that this is the way we've been programmed. Kristi, it brought me back to one of my sales supervisors that actually had to bury his 2-year-old daughter. It reminded me of when he came into my office and slammed my door. And he said, Troy, I'm so sick and tired of these people on the floor. I'm like, what's going on? He said, everyone is coming up to me telling me, I understand what you're going through. And in that moment, he said, I want to ask them, really? Have you buried your 2-year-old daughter too? Kristi, in that moment, I start replaying, well, what did I say? And so, again, this was from my dad's passing. It took me back to this memory of maybe about a year earlier, 2 years earlier. And I started to say, I got to do something different to make sure that on my watch as a leader, that I am not conveying anything that devalues people. Not that I'm going to get it perfect, but let me be more intentional on how I communicate. And since I have the responsibility of developing others, let me also develop them in a way that's healthier and that values people. And that's when I started on my journey of this program that I have called Teach, Model, and Coach, TMC. And I started doing all this studying and putting these things together. And then I arrived on the final product at that moment. And it was 2017 that I rolled it out to my team. I didn't do a big announcement. There was no ribbon cutting or anything like that. It was just boom, here it is. In 2018, we started to hit #1 company-wide results. And that wasn't the plan. The plan was to make sure people felt seen, heard, and valued. As a result of that, the results started coming in. And Kristi, that's going to sound weird as a sales manager saying that wasn't the plan. The plan was just to value people, but it led us to become the #1 team in 2021. We just dominated the whole year. We were the #1 team countrywide at GEICO, and that bled over into 22. We were the #1 team for 18 months.
Extraordinary. I just want to highlight for a moment. That is extraordinary. We're not talking about just like a little neighborhood, insurance company. We're
Right,
talking about GEICO.
right, right,
#1 in the
right,
nation, because your core values were to validate others and just make sure that they feel seen and heard. And the result of that was teamwork and pouring into others, right? Their colleagues, but also it sounds like their customers, right?
right,
You
right,
take really great care of and provide true customer service, not just the title of it. You're converting more yeses, right? You're closing more deals, you're serving more people. Everybody's having fun and making money and huge accomplishments. I just want to say kudos to that. So I didn't mean to
thank
end
you.
the story, but that's so sad. I hope that people really grasp the gravity of just how big GEICO is, and to be the #1 team for 18 months set on true core values to honor others. Woo! Before we dive any deeper into this conversation, I want to take a quick moment to share a tool that has significantly improved my life, and that's called Growth Day. It's like having world-class mentors right in your pocket. There are daily challenges that help grow your confidence, your inspiration, and your drive. Check out the show notes for your link to a free trial, and don't let another moment pass you by without checking out Growth Day.
In 2016, I attended a John Maxwell certification event. So I went to get certified as a speaker, trainer, and coach. And I was following John Maxwell for a while because of his history, being a pastor, and then just the leadership guru, this world renowned. And in that moment, Kristi, I got this conviction strong that I was going to leave GEICO, and I couldn't discern at the time, but there was these twos involved with it. I kept seeing twos, two, just a lot of twos. And I remember going to my regional president, my man George Rogers. I love this guy. I said, George, I have an exit date, but I don't know when. I just know these twos are coming. And in 2016, I was with the company for 18 years. And George said, as long as you're not telling me you're putting in your 2-week notice right now. I said, no, I'm not doing that. I said, but I just want to just put you on notice that something is coming. I didn't know if it was after 20 years of GEICO. I didn't know if it's after 22 years of GEICO. I didn't know if it was 2020 or 2022. I didn't know. Long story short, it was 2022. I got a strong conviction. Now's the time to leave. So in 2022, what did I do? I stayed. I was scared. Kristi, I was scared. I was taking the leap of faith into the unknown. Why would I leave being the status that I had at GEICO, the success that I had at GEICO, everything? Why would I leave that? And my Heavenly Father said, Troy, you're hard-headed. He said, okay, I got something for you. And he brought an event on in 2022 that changed my entire perspective, humbled me, and I said, okay. So in February of 2023, the exact date is February 22nd, 2023, I officially retired for GEICO, and I took a leap of faith. And here I am. This is how I got into this space. And it's been a grind. Yes. And then later, someone told me that those twos are angel numbers, Troy. They're called angel numbers. So as I started digging into the Bible, there are no angel numbers in the Bible, but there are correlations with two that just confirm everything that I was seeing and feeling. And so I feel pretty good, and I'm very convicted that this is the work that I'm doing. And you and I were speaking earlier, and I said, once you taste significance, success no longer compares. It doesn't even satisfy. And the work that I'm doing is filled with substance and significance because it's to change the world on how we communicate and see each other as just people, period.
That makes my heart sing. Okay. So you said something that I hope everybody caught. Once you taste significance, success doesn't even, it's not even in the running, right? So there are a lot of people who are just frothing at the mouth right now saying, sign me up. Like, that's what I want. How do I get to that space of significance? And something you said was really telling. We all tend to do it. We're hard-headed, right? You feel this calling, this urging, this pushing, and then fear.
Yes.
But God.
Yes.
So if you truly feel like it's the nudging and the prompting of God, just sit with that, be in prayer with that, be in conversation with God about that,
Yes.
and he'll make a way. I too am hard-headed, maybe in the running for the hardest headed person out there. And so God knows. And so I say, God, I can't just have a sign, right? Like, I need a billboard that says, hey, Kristi, this one's for you.
Yes.
And it doesn't always show up the way that I asked for it to or I desire it to, but it always shows up the way that I need it to.
Right.
So
That's
you
good.
got your sign all exactly the way that you needed it. It came in the forms of the twos. You resign on 222. Crazy. Awesome. So now you're walking exactly where God has designed you to be, right? He's given you these
Yes.
gifts, and it's really apparent to me that your gifts aren't for you to hoard and hold on to and enjoy,
Right.
right? Your gifts are to share with others, or somebody else will find your gift and share it with others. So you're walking in this space of significance and purpose now. You're leading leaders. Share with us a few things that, I'm not asking you to give away your magic secret sauce or anything like that, but what are some of the things that the leaders that are listening to right now say, I want to start infusing this in my place? Like, how can I influence my leader, or how can I be an influence as a leader to have others feel seen and heard or communicate in such a way? Like, you use that great example of the manager saying, well, we talked about this yesterday, but not everybody gets it in that moment, or who knows what was on your mind at that time. Like, you can't leave work outside of life outside of work, right? And just check in and be fully present. Like, life comes with you. And so you can't make somebody wrong for not catching something. So share with us some a takeaway or two that you can pour into us to start communicating in a way that's powerful, uplifting, and validating.
I'm going to say a couple of things. The first thing is there's a quote from Mark Twain. And Mark Twain says, education first consists mainly of unlearning what we've learned. So when we allow ourselves to just marinate in that in itself, just soak in that, because there are things that have been imprinted on us, within us, from the world, from our environment, our upbringing, and we hold that as these truths, and they're not. They're not. Everyone is not going to be acknowledging God. Okay. And I realize that. So I'm going to answer this in two parts. For those that do not have a relationship yet with God, I would encourage you to think about scenarios. And here's a scenario. If you're driving and someone cuts in front of you, right? And you all of a sudden start getting angered because it was a stupid move and they only gained maybe an inch or two in advancement. We tend to automatically start thinking all these negative thoughts rather than asking ourselves, I wonder what's going on in that person's life. I wonder if they're rushing home because they just got a 911 call and they have to be home, or whatever the case may be, right? Taking the time to just pause and then think. And often, if we start allowing ourselves just to do that and then take that and let it carry over into our conversations, when we listen, we listen to respond, but we don't listen on average to really understand. We don't listen to gain clarity. Sometimes someone's speaking with us and we're already crafting up a response in our head, not listening to them. And then boom, we put it out there and there's the response. Rather than listening to really understand what's this person saying. And wait a minute, where's that emotion coming from? And why are they conveying it like that? What am I missing? And then start pausing and asking questions internally, right? That right there is a self-help program that should go on forever. There's no end destination. It's forever developing that muscle. And then I've seen something somewhere that says, think before we speak. And the think is an acronym. So before we speak, number one, is it truthful? Number two, is it helpful? Number three, the I, is it inspiring? The N, is it necessary? And then the K, is it kind? Okay. So practicing those things for those that may not have a relationship with God, that would be the first nugget I will put in the lap. If I cross over to the other side, for those that do have a relationship with God, you said this already. I'm a firm believer that God has designed us all for a unique purpose. Okay. We think it's about our Trinity. Me, myself, and I. And it's not about us. It's about serving others. And in the gifting that he's already provided for us, we have skills and talents that he put deep within us that most of us don't really fully manifest those things into existence because we're caught up into, for lack of a better term, the rat race, or what society dictates or guides me to go and travel in. For those that are believers, I would offer to find moments of solitude and quiet and sit in his presence and ask and pray and really truly pray. And when we pray, it's not giving God, this is my wish list. It's asking God, what are you asking and desiring of me? And what are the tools and the talents that you've embedded in me that I haven't recognized yet? And help me discern these things and help me understand what this is for my purpose-driven life and how you want me to move forward. I know God is not a respecter of persons. So if he can talk to me, if he could talk to you, Kristi, he can talk to every one of our brothers and sisters out there and reveal the same thing. It's just that we're operating with blinders on. We don't even understand that. My man, Les Brown, he said, you can't see the picture when you're the frame. And so we have people within our circle that can see more in us than we see in ourselves when we're looking in the mirror. So those are the two nuggets that I would give any leader out there, any person. Leadership is just influence, nothing more, nothing less. If you can influence me to choose vanilla ice cream over Rocky Road, you're a leader. If you can influence me to go to movies when I don't want to go to the movies, you're a leader. Okay. If you can influence anything and anyone, this is valuable information for you. Does that make sense?
Troy, this is incredible, incredible, incredible. My biggest takeaway, you gave so much there, and I thank you for it. I love your heart. I love your perspective. You shared even other people's wise statements and just infused it in such a beautiful way that it just really resonates. I think the very first actionable step that we can take, like if we wanted to change one thing about ourselves to show up in a better way to model for other people, set the expectation, like this is how I'm going to show up. Why don't you try the same thing? Is being curious instead of judging. That example of being in the car. A lot of people who are listening might live in the craziness of Florida, like where you and I live. And the roads can be insane, especially during season when a lot of the snowbirds come down and enjoy
Tourists.
for sure. And, I've driven someplace where I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where the next exit is coming. My GPS, it defaults on me all the time. Like, I think she's like just laughing at me, right? She's like, ha ha, missed your exit, dum dum, right? Who knows? I think she's in cahoots with the toll system sometimes too, because what could have taken 20 minutes and no tolls now took 18 minutes and $7 later. You just don't know what somebody else is going through. And there are some people out there that are the slave and the master to themselves.
Yes.
Everything is about themselves, and nothing that you or I could do or model might change that. That's not our place too. But what we can do is we can control ourselves. We can control how we respond, and we can control how we show up. And you shared such amazing things. So thank you for that, because I feel like it's instant actionable steps for us to show up in the workplace, at our homes, even in the most exhausted moments. We can we can choose how our response is, but it's something that we have to be, you said the word before, intentional on. Intention. It's really easy to move through life and just kind of roll through the motions. But that intentionality, not only in how we respond, how we connect and communicate with others, how we lift and pour into others.
Right.
And then, just like you did with purpose and intention, you pivoted your entire life. You're making a bet on yourself. Tell us a little bit about how you teach and train and model and coach for leaders. How does that work in your world, and how somebody might experience working with you?
Sure. The first thing is that realizing that we all come from different walks of life. And when you think about emotional intelligence, I've seen firsthand and experienced this myself, that we arrive sometimes on places within our emotions and we don't question enough of, where is that coming from? Why am I feeling this way about that person? And we project a lot. We project a lot of expectations on the people. And that's the number one thing that we have to recognize is the expectations we put on people. So from a leadership standpoint, one of the things that I talk about within my program, Teach, Model, and Coach, one of the modules, the Teach module, is really having people understand that as a leader, you own it all. First and foremost, you own everything. And there's this quote that I like to use. You get what you demand, you encourage what you tolerate. You get what you demand, you encourage what you tolerate. If you're demanding something or a level of something, you have to be the owner of that. So are you willing to go and now lay the foundation, teach what it is that you're looking to see, explain the why of your teaching purpose, explain what you're looking to see specifically, when your team or your environment will arrive on this, and what's the overall benefit for all? Are you tuning into the radio station that your team members are tuned into? The call letters are WIIFM. What's in it for me? Right? So are you broadcasting on their channel? And I teach leaders how to do this. Okay. And I teach leaders how to have empathy towards people. Okay. Because when you're there for people, when people truly feel seen, heard, and valued, not only do they show up, they show out. Kristi, they show out. Okay. And that's a game changer. So through my program, it's a 12-week program. I take all the leaders through the different modules. There's teach, there's model, there's coach. We have an additional module that we talk about communication. We talk about the words that we have been programmed to use and how we even convey things. Like if I tell you, Kristi, this is a great podcast. Good job. Most people will be okay with that because that's the way we talk. If I flipped it and remixed it in a TMC format and I say, Kristi, this is a great podcast. Here's why. The substance and the work that you're doing at putting people in the forefront of the value of the content, it's enriching. Now I gave you all these specifics. We don't talk like that. And when I communicate to you in that aspect, oh my goodness, the brain is going crazy. There's so many dopamine hits. You have all of these chemicals being released. And what I'm giving you are specific things that reinforce the positive behaviors, observable behaviors that are present. This is a big miss for us. The average adult spends about 2 hours a day on their cell phone. And it's ridiculous. The FOMO, fear of missing out, right? They're always constantly checking their phone and they're they're slave to their phone. And sometimes within this process, we lose the ability to communicate clearly to another human being. Instead of showing these short spurts of communication, the example that I just gave you of being very specific as to why I'm giving you this compliment, we have a deficiency in that. And then on the flip side of that, when we want to give a compliment, we don't know how to shut our mouths and just give a compliment. Sometimes as leaders, we say, hey, good job on that report. But Then we have a but. The but just discounts everything that just came before that statement. So all the compliments we have, we should put a period at the end of it. Yet we live in a society that sometimes, even as the receiver, we're waiting for the buts. We're like, but. So within my program, and I don't want to give all the sauce out, Kristi, but this is just a glimpse of the things that we learn, that people learn within my program. And what they're walking away saying is they're saying, Troy, I can't believe that I didn't notice this prior. And I say to them, give yourself grace, because we all operate with blinders on. You know, what's mind blowing, Kristi, is that in the professional world of sports, you got baseball. I'll just name baseball, football, basketball. On average, do you know these teams carry, on average, 11 to 25 coaches on the team? When you go to an organization, any corporation, when you look at any leader, you know how many coaches they actually have? Zero. Let that settle in for a second. We're in the deficiency within our ability to have coaches. You and I have a mutual coach. We're in a deficiency in our world to have coaches, people to pour into us, people that can see us for who we really are and will give it to us very raw and transparent in a way that still edifies us and builds us up. So this program is really available for people to get access to someone that's been there, done that, especially in the corporate world. There's been so many times that I used to worry about going on vacation, because when I come back, how many fires do I have to put out? And then realizing, once I stepped into this teach, model, and coach methodology and started traveling that route, I didn't have to put out fires anymore. Instead of creating followers, I was creating more leaders. Does that make sense?
That it is beautiful. There's so much depth in what you've just shared. The way I learn is I repeat it in the way that my brain was able to take it in. And I share that in case somebody else learns that way too, because I don't want to just hear this and say, this is good stuff and move on. I want it to permeate inside of me and
Good. Yes.
change me as a
Yes.
fellow human being, but also as somebody who desires to be a person of influence, meaning a leader. I need more followers, right? To lift those around me. So here's what really stood out to me, Troy. First off, you and I share a sales background. You'd been in sales for all those years with GEICO and into management and leadership. And the number one thing that I think kills a sales professional's ability to be successful in one of the greatest, doesn't even matter your industry, just the greatest roles of all time, which is in sales, is their ability to communicate. And communication isn't just verbally, right? It is what we say, but it is what we hear and how we hear it and how we infuse that into the world. And it's missed all the time. The way you talked about how your training can shift things in people, what really stood out to me is you said that a lot of times people say, I missed it. I didn't even see that that was this deficiency. And society's modeled us this way, right? It's like, it's almost okay to say, like, it's not your fault. It's not my fault. But it is our fault if we learn that that's there and don't do anything about it.
Yeah.
That's where you can take ownership of, like,
Yes.
have an opportunity to do better, be better, share better, lead better. And what a missed opportunity, not only for you as a leader, but for the people you get to raise up. I don't know if you've noticed this or not. Sometimes I see where some leaders are at a place, or managers, supervisors are at a place in their career where they feel like, I've really got to shine here, or right, like I'm gonna fizzle out, or I won't get that final promotion, or they're kind of more inner focused on the results
Yes.
because of, like, that stage of where they're at in their career.
Yes.
Maybe it's like the last, 10 years of where they see themselves as a leader or working or those kinds of things. I feel like that could create such a detriment to their team, right? Like, if you're only focusing on how I show up as a manager, a supervisor, a leader, and my numbers, my results, right? At the cost of not raising others up. I'm sure you see that all the time as you're coaching different people in different walks of their life. If that's the focus, we could really be creating ripple effects that could, because it's like what's modeled for you as a child from your parent, we often go and pour that into the next generation, right? And
Yes.
same with leadership. I see a lot of times people will get promoted into a job because they were really great at their job, but they have no leadership or training at all on
Right.
how to communicate and lead others.
Right.
Right? So they're grasping on to like, well, this is all I know, instead of saying, well, what else is there to learn? And
Right.
I feel like what you do is fill that gap.
Yes, unfortunately, that is so accurate, Christy. It's so accurate. And unfortunately, leaders get promoted into, or people get promoted into a position of leadership with a title. And they assume sometimes that because they're here, that they've arrived and that people will listen to them. And what they're missing is they still have to develop in how to lead. They still have to establish relationships. And to the first thing that you said, they still have to gain a greater aspect of communicating, of understanding why is this person saying this, reading the body language, hearing the voice inflection, and leaning into that rather than dismissing it because they are not equipped to go into and do a root canal in a sense, right? Which can be uncomfortable. But Abraham Maslow said growth is in our most uncomfortable spaces. You take a forward, you take a step into uncomfort, which is growth, or step backwards into safety. And people are retreating backwards because they say, I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to touch that. And they're not developed in that aspect. And then that person that just revealed something to that new leader or existing leader walks away thinking, they don't even hear me. They don't even care. I'm not going to go all out for them. I'm going to do what I have to do to take care of me and my family. And it is what it is. So what you're saying, and this is what I've seen firsthand. I've seen it firsthand in many different organizations, even inside the walls of GEICO when I was there. I've seen it firsthand. And this is not development. Giving someone a project to do, that's not development. Okay? That's not run these reports. Tell me what these KPIs, what's the pattern? That's not development. That's not development.
That is excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that and emphasizing what the need is out there. Quite frankly, a little nervous about future generations not getting
Man.
from from us, but what they need and deserve because we're not equipped without the right guidance and education, which is what you're providing.
Let me chime in with that.
Yes,
Krista, you just hit something. The future generations and the technology that we have and the AI is beautiful when it's leveraged correctly. And the future generations, we have kids that are turning to AI because there's not a human being that has enough influence and patience to pour into them and develop them in a humanistic way, in a way that God would pervert, right? And there's such a gap with that. And then I've seen kids, I say kids, I'm 59 years old. So let me define kids. Anyone that's 35 or younger, to me, sometimes I put you in that kid bucket, okay? No disrespect. And I've seen people just lack emotional intelligence in how to just have common sense. Common sense is not so common anymore. You follow me?
absolutely. You've mentioned emotional intelligence. A lot of people don't even know what that means. If you don't know what that means, please go research that because it is a game changer on how we connect with others, how we can see ourselves. A big chunk
Right.
of emotional intelligence is our own responsibility.
Right. And let me just back up one more thing, Chrissy. And what I just said, that's not an attack on anyone 35 or younger. It's an observation that as a leader, these are the areas that I am called to stand in these gaps because for whatever reason in their environment, there's some deficiencies. And my heart is saddened by the deficiency and how many deficiencies out there that these young folks don't have access to someone that can sit down with them, put away all distractions, get away from desks, cell phones, everything, and just pour into somebody. And that's my calling, is to help open people's eyes, provide hope, helping other people excel. Okay. That's my calling.
Love that. I've also read a lot of studies where workplaces, the one of the top desires for employees is empathy, a place of empathy. And the number one, I'll use your word here, deficiency in the workplace is empathy. So I love that emotional intelligence, empathy, and equipping leaders is really your calling, your purpose, and your heart's desire. Well, Troy, we're coming to the end of our time. I can't stand it. I would love to talk to you for hours, but this is not the Joe Rogan show. We like to end on the note of the Be the Change challenge. There's a part in the Peopling book that talks about how to be the change in our own world, as small or large as it might be. So I'm going to ask you, what is one actionable thing, task, way of being that you can share with our listeners right now that they can infuse into their world immediately? Like this week, this could be their focus where they can be the change to their sphere, their circle, their family, their friends, their workplace.
That's good. And what I will give you, I'm going to hit on something I already said. I'm going to marry that to what I'm going to say right now. And it's very simple. Challenging to do, very simple. In your next conversation, give your audience, that person, 60 seconds of your undivided attention and allow that to keep carrying on. So 60 seconds meaning, Kristi, as you talk to me or a listener goes out and they apply this in the real world, get out of your head everything else. Who's in front of you? Who's talking to you? What are they saying? Is there any emotions that you see? How is their voice inflection, right? And if they're sharing with you, I'm so frustrated, well, that's an emotion that they just shared with you. And as you hear these things, before you respond, pause. And then, like I said earlier, think. What you're about to say, is it truthful? That's the T. Is it helpful? That's the H. Is it inspiring? That's the I. Is it necessary? That's the N. And is it kind? That's the K. And then respond. And your response doesn't always have to give a resolution. Your response can simply say, tell me more. Your response can simply be a clarifying question. What makes you feel that way? I'm curious. So that in itself, 60 seconds of undivided attention, no phones, no laptops, no nothing. Focus in, hear what they're saying, question what you're hearing, think before you respond, and then respond. That's the nugget that I would leave for everybody.
Friends, check out the show notes so you can connect with Troy C. Smith. I'll have a link in there for his book, Value Driven Leadership, how you can connect with him and follow him on TikTok and YouTube and some of the other places where he is dropping nuggets all the time. And you can learn and expand and grow and hopefully work through him and with him. Troy, it has been an honor to have you here today. Thank you so very much. And thank you to our listeners for hanging out with us through this journey. Until next time, appreciate you listening.
Thank you, Kristi.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Peopling Podcast, and grab your copy of the Peopling book on Amazon, and let's keep this connection movement going. Until next time, be curious, be kind, and keep peopling like you mean it.